Right, so I don't believe we've ever spoke about tiny home drama on this channel, but today we're going to be talking about a situation that involves an alleged $1 million tiny home scam. Now, there's a few people you need to be aware of this situation. The first one being Hi Caro. I believe she's called Caroline when we see the emails and the videos. She has 10,000 followers. Now, Caroline is one of the potential 27 other people that have been affected by this. And that will make more sense later, but there's two more people you need to be aware of. The other person is David Flake, and this is actually a website called davidflake.com that I think was set up by Caroline's mother, by the looks of it. And it's basically just talking about this situation and the fact that David Flake is potentially, allegedly, a bit of a scam artist. I mean, if we scroll down, there's like documents and like screenshots and receipts and all this stuff. Like, we will be going through a lot of this when we look at the videos. But the final person you'd be aware of is Deanna Ohly. Now, this was David's business partner when this situation started, and as we'll see as the video carries on, that went to shit. But they're the three main people, okay? So Deanna and David are working together at the beginning of this story, selling tiny homes. Now, Caroline has uploaded quite a lot of videos talking about this situation. So if we start from the beginning, it starts off with Caroline talking about the fact that she has fell for a scam and lost thousands. We later find out it's about $70,000.
Never thought I'd fall for a scam, but this wasn't just any scam. This was very calculated and sophisticated and cost me thousands. It all started August 2023 when my family decided that we wanted to buy a tiny house. We started looking online and found an ad on Facebook Marketplace, and the seller was David Flake. We did a quick Google search on him and there was no red flags, no bad reviews. He seemed very
Yeah, so as you hear Caroline say there, they did a quick Google search, nothing came up. We later find out that actually there's a lot more information to be seen. Also, a quick disclaimer, throughout these videos, there is some like louder music and louder sound effects throughout. They are just in the video, there's nothing I can really do about it. For the most part, you can hear what Caroline's saying, but there is some louder sound effects and stuff, so just to give you a bit of a warning. Now, Caroline goes on to say that she was wondering like what the process is like how they're going to get the tiny home into a backyard. David's then responding, showing that he's done this before. We see this message here saying, when there is not a side yard, we use a crane to drop him in the backyard. Pretty cool, right? And actually attach this video here showing a tiny home on a crane going into someone's backyard. Caroline then organizes to visit some of the tiny homes to see what they're like. She likes what she sees, so they sign a contract.
to customize it to our needs. We all signed the contract right there in that tiny house, and my mom handed over a check. What we didn't know at the time, the house wasn't even built by David Flake, and we weren't the only ones he took to seal the deal.
And then in part two is the first time we hear about Deanna Ohly. So David and Deanna are obviously business partners at this point. Caroline is introduced to Deanna. She even gets to see like a home is being built.
Everything was going smoothly. David was keeping us updated. We set a design meeting so we were able to customize the house for our own. And on September 21st, we actually met David's partner, Deanna Ohly. This is where we saw our tiny house for the first time, but the overflow lot was just Deanna's house. We saw our house up in studs, and everything was going smoothly. September 28th.
We then hear Caroline say that David asked for a second payment. Like I said, the amount lost is, well, as Caroline says later on, about $70,000 just from Caroline. We then hear about some more people that were affected by this. Apparently the number's over $1 million in total. But also at this point, there starts to be some miscommunication. We've got David and Deanna saying different things. David is saying that the house is going to have to be moved, be built somewhere else. Then Deanna's saying, no, it isn't. It's going to be built here. There's clearly some friction going on. But Caroline says that these were just like some smaller red flags, right? That become much bigger red flags a little bit later on. But at this time, Caroline is also preparing her backyard for this home to be installed. We can see here $10,000 for plumbing and electrical. She shows like a few pictures where they've got like pipes being installed and whatnot. And then this is where things start really going wrong, because Deanna then contacts Caroline to say that David has been embezzling money, taking money from the company and taking it for himself.
On October 13th, our world was flipped upside down when we got the phone call that changed everything. Deanna, David Flake's partner, called us to let us know that David Flake had embezzled money straight from the company's account to his personal account. So she had the bank accounts to prove it, and then she told us something that made my stomach drop. What do you mean, cancel the checks? What do you mean, get my money back?
Yeah, so an important part in this story is that it seems like, from everything we're seeing here, that Caroline paid David. So David has Caroline's money, this potential like $60,000, $70,000. From what we can tell, Deanna never has the payment, but she has the house. But now at this point, the situation gets even more confusing, because David then contacts Caroline to say that it's Deanna who's stealing money. There's been a complication on finishing your build. This week, I had to terminate Deanna Ohly from the company for mismanagement and theft of funds. My attorney is filing the appropriate paperwork to retrieve company property from her. 2 tiny homes were being built on the side lot at her house, one of which was yours. I sent the tour company to remove your tiny home from her location and bring it to our Vista build site and she turned them away. I hope there is only a few days delay and I will keep you informed of our legal process to obtain company property. I'm praying for her this weekend that she can clear her troubled mind and do the right thing. I apologise for any inconvenience and I will make it right by any means necessary. So clearly there's some big dispute going on between David and Deanna. Now, unfortunately for Caroline, she has paid these people to build a tiny home for her. And now she's just kind of stuck in the middle, not knowing who's telling the truth. These two are going at each other. It turns into this big legal situation we find out later. And Caroline's just kind of stuck in the middle being like, okay, right, you've got your troubles, but what the fuck's going on with my home? In the next video, we hear some more details where David is saying that Deanna tried to steal some of the trailers, like she broke the locks, tried to steal them, but the police stopped her.
Here they tell us that David Flake had to move company funds into his personal account in order to stop Deanna from taking it herself. He said that Deanna tried to take the rest of the trailers. She cut the locks and the cops stopped her down the road. Now Deanna was hiding the rest of the homes.
I mean, can you imagine being stuck in the middle of this situation? Like, it's already crazy enough, right? If this was just a story from, like, David's perspective of Deanna's perspective, it would be a crazy story, but poor Caroline's just kind of stuck in the middle here. But either way, Caroline then meets up with Deanna. Deanna shows some bank statements saying that this is proof that David has been embezzling money,
including the one that was ours. A few days after that, we decide to meet with Deanna. There she shows us the bank records. $301,000 in transactions, $267,000 straight into Blake's bank account. Math wasn't mathing, but Deanna...
Okay, so clearly something dodgy is going on behind the scenes, right? But obviously from Caroline's point of view, she just wants a house. She's already paid for it. She paid, again, about $60,000, $70,000. She wants a home. She wants to know what's going on here. And Deanna is saying, like, we still have your home. You're going to get your home. I just can't tell you where it's being built.
But Deanna said that she would continue to build our house for us, but she wouldn't tell us where it was. After a week of anxiety, we were done playing detective. We didn't care who was right anymore. We just wanted our money and move on. Flake was the first to suggest we get a refund to ensure that we stay away from this drama. On October 26th, he told us to send a letter and he'd get us our money back. We sent a letter on October 30th, and on November 2nd, he acknowledged it. But did we get our money back? No.
Okay, so David's even said, like, you should get your money back. They've sent a letter to get a refund, and that never happens. Now, during this time, there's a legal battle between Deanna and David. They're trying to figure out what's happening with these funds. Obviously, they're waiting for a judgment from the court. So you've got that on top of an already complicated situation. I guess from David's point of view, he is saying that he's trying to get access to the property, you know, like the homes, the trailers, and all that stuff. Obviously, from Deanna's point of view, she's saying that's her property and David can't have it. There's just this big dispute. So now at this point, Caroline starts looking at listings for tiny homes. She sees a listing for a tiny home. It's got Deanna's, like, email or name on it. So Caroline's dad ends up going for a viewing, asks to see if there's any other properties, and actually finds where Caroline's home is being kept, which of course at this point she's not being told.
So my dad shows up pretending to be the buyer. She shows him a smaller model home that was still at her house, but he asked her, do you have anything bigger? And that's when she says, yeah, follow me. So he gets in his car and follows her 5 miles to a vacant lot. And guess what Ohly shows him? Our home. We finally found our home. But we had a bigger problem. Getting it back.
And then just when you thought the situation couldn't get any more confusing, Caroline then finds out that David has a past in misleading investors and fraud.
So we started digging, and what we found, worse than we thought. David Flake wasn't just a shady businessman. He had fraudulent ventures under his belt. And not only that, the SEC had to shut him down. His businesses were fined and penalized for trying to mislead investors.
And like I said before, a big legal battle's going on at this time. Now, a judge has told Deanna Ohly that she's not allowed to sell this home. But even though she wasn't allowed to sell it at this time, Caroline wasn't allowed to, like, get the home, right? She had no way of getting the home back or her money. And then just like David, Caroline finds out some alleged information about Deanna Ohly.
Just when we thought things couldn't get worse, there is Deanna. We learn she's getting evicted, but she has a criminal past. She was actually a judge for award-winning dogs until she went to federal prison. And she has a $1 million judgment against her. She deceived the court by using fake documents during her case. How did we get caught up with people like that. David Flake.
Yeah, I mean, that was literally my initial reaction there. Like, how have you found yourself in this situation here? Again, I can't even begin to imagine how stressful this all is, right? Because this, at the end of the day, is a massive, like, dispute between Deanna and David. We're talking about money being embezzled and whatnot with two people who've maybe done some dodgy stuff in the past already. And then you've just got Caroline here who wants a house and can't get it. Like, she really is just stuck in the middle, just hearing from both sides all the time and has no idea what's actually going on. Now, at this point, Caroline goes into more details about how she already had tenants moving into their current home. So they had to move out of their current home. Obviously, they don't have this tiny home that they were going to move into. So they actually have to, like, convert the garage and try and live in there. And that floods. Like, it's just a shitty situation.
They were expecting to move into a house, and we had nowhere to go. My husband started converting the garage into a more habitable place, making it private for us and giving us our own entrance. In March, the rains kept coming and our garage flooded. Now we were living in a flooded home while David Flake was comfortable somewhere else with our money. I remember waking up every morning and crying, then calling him because we were in this mess because of him, because of his lies, and he refused to take accountability. Meanwhile, Deanna, she wasn't finishing it for us. She was finishing it up to sell. She had no intentions of giving it back to us.
Yeah, so as you just heard there, Deanna is finishing the home, but to sell for herself, right? And in fact, as we later find out, Deanna is still selling homes to this day, just under a different company now. Now, at this point, Caroline asks David Flake if he can just, like, build them a different home, like a smaller home. They've already paid him money, so surely it's the least he can do if they're not going to get back the home that they were originally going to get, but he doesn't reply.
With no hope of getting our home back, we decide to settle with Flake. Give us a smaller house with the money we already gave you and call it even. We insisted we wanted everything in writing. If Flake didn't deliver, we were ready to take him to arbitration, and we knew we would win. And he would be required to pay our legal fees. So this was an easy out for him. Flake's lawyer even said that he had the means to build us a new house or pay us $5,000 a month. We just needed Flake to agree. But he never replied.
So now we get to 6 months after Caroline first initially asked for a refund, and they are now filing a lawsuit against David Flake. And on top of this lawsuit, Caroline is going to social media and talking about it.
Waiting. At this point, we knew too much, and we just didn't trust either of them. 6 months had passed since we asked for that refund. 6 months had passed since we were supposed to have our tiny house delivered. Enough was enough. We were done waiting. We decided to sue. We decided to file a lawsuit against the tiny house company and David Flake for fraud. It was time to take action, but that wasn't all. I posted my first TikTok
the
story.
tiny house company over $64,000 to build me a home.
And I created davidflake.com to spread awareness. Please check out the website. The link is listed in my bio, and there you'll find more on David Flake and what he's done. By May, the lawsuit was official, and David Flake ignored me enough times for me to cut ties.
But yeah, the lawsuit is going ahead at this point, and more people are getting involved, right? Because there's more and more people who have been affected by this. It wasn't just Caroline who tried buying a house. Apparently there's 27 people who tried buying a house. Only a couple of them were actually, like, made and sold. But then arises another problem because David Flake files for bankruptcy.
Trying to keep our family together. But we weren't alone. As the lawsuit proceeded, more victims started reaching out, and the pieces of David Flake's scam started being put together. We did Yelp, the BBB, filed a complaint with the FTC, even contacted Airbnb so that he's not allowed to rent anymore. Each new victim, the truth became more and more undeniable. A year after we signed our original contract, in August of 2024, things took a turn. David Flake filed for bankruptcy. He sent everyone an email on August 6th and made it official by August 9th. The bankruptcy meant he was walking away from his debt, including our lawsuit. It felt like a slap in the face. Not only were we not getting our $64,000 back, but we weren't getting reimbursed for any of our legal fees.
So yeah, like Caroline just said, he gets to walk away from his debt now by filing for bankruptcy, and it looks like Caroline probably isn't ever going to get that money back. But again, it's not just Caroline. Apparently there's over $1 million that has been scammed from people. 27 people, I believe, and only 4 houses were actually delivered.
And then took that dream away. And it's not just about tiny homes. He took over $1 million from over 27 different people, and all he did was deliver 4 houses? The math is not adding up.
Okay, so that was the end of the story time, but we do have some updates in just a second. But you can see there's this massive dispute, right? And a lot of people have been scammed out of money, and it's a really shitty situation. And obviously we have David and Deanna, who are both definitely at fault in this situation. I would say David's probably more at fault. He's got the money, right? He's the one who's took the money from people. But David and Deanna were business partners in this company that took money from people like Caroline and didn't deliver the home. And it's not like they don't have access to the home, right? Deanna then took the home that Caroline bought and sold it for a different company. So as much as I do think that David is in the worst out of everyone, like, I mean, David and Deanna both have clearly done very bad things in this situation. Now, where the story takes an even wilder turn is that Caroline was recently at like a tiny home like event, I guess, where people could go and look at tiny homes. There's companies that could go and like advertise their products and whatnot. And what do you know? Caroline actually sees Deanna promoting her new business.
I am shaking so bad right now. I'm at Tiny Fest here in San Diego, California, and you won't believe who I freaking saw. You see these right here? These are the builds by Deanna Ohly, the lady that scammed me. There she is right there, you guys. Trench coat lady, right there. That's Deanna Ohly. Yeah, and then there's Deanna Ohly. So she's still selling homes even though she scammed me out of a house, as you can see. So just be careful. Certainly.
Okay, so at this point in the video, Caroline then goes and like looks in the home and shows what's like. We can actually see here. So this is the homes that's been like promoted. She even looks inside to see what they're like. It's tiny homes, right? But in a follow-up video, we get to see more of the confrontation.
Destroyed that lady's home. She spent over $100,000, and you didn't give her what kind of quality home? Is that the quality home you're spending? She complained. Is that true? Okay, so tell us what kind of homes you make. What's your quality home?
I build very quality homes, but I haven't been able to do that anymore.
Where did those come from?
They're somebody else's.
Who's somebody else? Deanna, your name's on the company. That's your phone number on the flyer.
You know, this is very immature. As I told you, I'm very sorry about what...
Okay, so Deanna first says that these aren't her homes. I guess she's trying to maybe say, like, this is someone else promoting their company, and she just so happened to be there, even though she clearly was, like, there to sell the homes, right? She was sat down, speaking to customers. She has this big tablet in front of her and whatnot. And then Caroline's response to that is, like, your name's on the business, your phone number's on there. And, I mean, obviously you can see, like, Deanna doesn't really know much to say there. She just calls, like, immature. Now, interestingly, Deanna actually commented on this video, and she left a couple of comments. The first one being, Caroline never give me any money, not 1 cent. She give her money to David Flake, who sadly scammed all of us, and many, many other innocent victims. And from what we can see, that is true. The money did go to David Flake, but I mean, Deanna and David were business partners, so she does have some responsibility here, surely. And she also has the home that was purchased and apparently sold it herself in a different company. Now, another comment that Deanna left says, as well, these houses were not built by me, so I guess there will be more innocent people / builders hurt in the mud-slinging contest. Now, Caroline did respond to these comments in a video showing reviews for other companies that Deanna has been a part of that have had negative reviews and have had very similar experiences, it seems.
Deanna Ohly has entered the chat room, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for commenting, because every time I try to reach out to you, you run away. Now, I do want to give you an opportunity to speak your truth. Before I do so, I would like to bring your attention to this Yelp review from Accurate Tiny Homes, where Kristen gave you $23,500 for you to build her a tiny home. You did not give her her money or her house back. Sounds familiar? Please explain. That's not including your Smarter Tiny House company, the tiny house company, in addition to your new affordable tiny. I'd like to bring attention to these other reviews from the tiny house company, which also allege you did the same thing.
And from what I can see, Deanna hasn't publicly responded to this video, so that is kind of all the information we have at this point. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. It's a very shitty situation, especially for Caroline, who's kind of just stuck in the middle out of all of this. Yeah, just a wild situation. But either way, like, this topic really hasn't got that much attention on TikTok. I mean, most of the parts of the story time that we're watching have less than 1,000 views. I literally just saw this pop up on my For You page by chance, and it's a bit of a wild story to say the least. But yeah, either way, if you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like on it, subscribe if you are new, and until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.